What's going on? I'm Marcus Weeks. I'm a licensed attorney, and you're at the channel of the Debt Free Dad. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And hey, at this channel, we are talking financial takes, financial topics, and I'm giving attorney reactions to things that have a financial impact, or if it's something that's just wild out there and utterly crazy and utterly ridiculous. I thought this story was an interesting story because the past few months we've been having a lot of guests on who've been talking about a lot of things as it relates to asset protection. A couple months ago, we had my homegirl on who gave some gems and some advice about life insurance, how much, why is important, how to have the conversation, policy information, riders, real dope information. We followed that up with a high speed estate attorney on. And this high speed attorney gave us some gems about wills, trust, how do they apply, why you should actually have an estate plan to avoid probate. So, in line with that, I saw this story and I thought to myself, damn, this story is quite interesting. So, we're going to talk about Jalen Rose, his sister, his family situation. And like I always say, hey, blood is thicker than water until there's money involved. So, hey, we're going to dive in and talk about it. Again, this is not legal advice or financial advice. I'm just letting y'all know, hey, what's going on in the household of Debt Free Dad. And I'm giving my opinion and takes on financial topics and current events. So, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Now, Jalen Rose, if you're unaware, is a retired NBA player. Hey, he had his best years. For me, I think his best years were on the Pacers. He had some time on Toronto where, of course, he ate 81 from Kobe being Bryant. So let's just talk about it. Before we even delve into the video, we're going to lay the foundation with what we have. Now, of course, you know, I did some open source research trying to get as much information as possible, but I wasn't able to find everything. So for some things, we're going to have to talk about what we can decipher from the facts and what options are available. But it's going to be a little bit of property law. We're going to talk a little bit of tax. We're going to talk a little bit of estate planning. And we're also going to talk a little bit of sometimes you just have crazy ass family members. And I don't know, like maybe y'all family is a lot more civilized and upright walking than my family is, but like I've seen firsthand how people act when a loved one is gone. I mean, is like before the person is even like cremated or in the ground, people start fighting over who gets what. I mean, it's real ridiculous and crazy and asinine. So, like, hey, shout out to you if your family can withstand the loss. That person has assets and nobody act like a fool. But you know, for most people, that's not really the case. So here's the scenario. Here's how we're gonna lay it out before we even dive into the video. Okay. So the short and quick facts are Jalen Rose purchased his mother a home so that she could live in. His mother, as well as his grandmother, resided there. His oldest sister was acting as the caretaker. What's going on, Judy? Thanks for tuning in. His oldest sister was acting for the caretaker for the grandmother and for their mother. Well, their mother passed away about a year ago. And so now we had a couple of videos that surfaced on the internet where he wanting to sell the house. So we're going to dive in and talk about it. Let's go and cue up the video first so y'all can see what we're talking about. Then we're going to go ahead and chop it up and discuss some stuff. Let's make sure we got everything queued up. Let's see.
Ready and trying to continue to be healthy, but then I got to keep dealing with this idiot and doing this foolishness.
No, we didn't want to do that. Let's flip that back. All right.
Go in my mother's room. Do not go in my mother's room. Do not go in my mother's room. Do not go in there. Don't go in my mother's room. Do not go in my mother's room. My mother just died last year, okay? And you bringing strangers all in here, Jalen Rose, to walk through your mother's house that you love so much, that you trying to sell her house a year after she passed while your sister's still living here in it. And you had the audacity to call me a squatter when I took care of our mother and our grandmother in this house. You got a lot of nerve, Jalen Rose. You got a lot of nerve. And I hope the whole world see how much nerve you got now and how fake and phony you been talking about how much love you got to your mother and your family. Mighty funny. The man with the mic ain't got nothing to say today. Ain't that strange? Ain't that strange? How you gonna sell a house somebody live in and been living in for the last 3 years and not communicate? This what this guy is on. A clothes and get my summer stuff ready and trying to continue to be healthy. But then I got to keep dealing with this idiot and doing this foolishness. Do not go in my mother's room.
All right, so that's video number one. There's a follow-up video to this. Real quick, let me go ahead and pull this follow-up video up real quick.
Jalen Rose's sister is upset with her brother.
Yeah. This is what I have to deal with. Yeah, while I'm rehabbing and rehabilitating. So we're going to see how this all works out this morning, y'all. There he is right there, the star of the family who runs everything. Yeah, that's him right there. Yeah, look familiar? While his sister's in the house, rehabbing, grieving from death and loss, he is bringing strangers through here to show a house that someone's living in as if a whole human being doesn't live in this house. So, yeah. Oh, okay. I said no. Well, I live here, and I've lived here since 2019. No, I'm not squatting here. I've lived here when our mother and our grandmother was here. So that's not squatting. Squatting is being somewhere illegally. I'm not here illegally. No, that's not what squatting means. And you have a college education, so you should know that. You should. And as I told him, as long as I'm living here and until I get myself healthy and well, I'm not going anywhere.
Jalen Rose.
All right, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and close that out, and we're gonna talk about this video first of all because this video is kind of crazy. Hey, what's going on? I appreciate everybody tuning in. Yeah, it's well, I'll say that anybody who's watching a channel like mine's or any of the high-speed people in the chat room or Dave Ramsey or Pocket Watching with JT, people who watch those channels, you probably think about money and finances because there's only two outcomes. Either option number one is you have somebody who has a valid claim to title to that property. That would be option number one. Option number two is you have somebody who's a freeloader and they want something for nothing. So unfortunately, I think what Jalen Rose is suffering from. What's going on, brother? Hey, man, looking forward to doing the show with you Friday, too. But I think what Jalen Rose is suffering from, and I don't know how many of y'all can relate, but if you are universally regarded as the successful person in the family, a lot of times all of the craziness and drama is always brought to you to either resolve or to get your opinion on. So I think that Jalen Rose is dealing with a little bit of that, first of all. Second of all, let's talk about this whole airing out things. And hey, he's a personality on ESPN now. So I think that whatever his sister claim or lack thereof is, I think that she's just thinking that, you know what, if I can embarrass him on social media, I can get whatever the outcome is that I want before we even dive into the legality of it. Now I tell you, so hey, he's asserting she's a squatter. She's saying she's not a squatter, but I think from all intents and purposes, she's probably a squatter. Let's talk about it. One or two things happened because I wasn't able to find everything, and I tried to look and identify, but some things you just can't find from open source research. Now, I don't know if Jalen Rose would take my approach, but hey, rest in peace. Lord bless the dead. But if I purchased my mother a home and me and my brother were alive, if I purchased my mother a home, I love my mother, I love my brother. I would purchase the home for her. The home would be in my name, and I would just let her live there and pay all of the utilities and the taxes. That's option number one. Option number two is he could have purchased the home for his mother, had the home put in his mother's name. That was genuinely his mother's home, and she passed away. Now, I have reason to believe that option number one is probably what happened here. And I'll tell you why. One, I don't think Jalen Rose is a crazy guy. I think he understands, and we all understand the type of family that we're working with, for good or bad. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. That's just who God gives you. But I think that it looks like he purchased this home. He kept this home in his name, and he just let his mother, his grandmother live there while his sister was taking care of him. Because just from observing the video, if the home was in his mother's name, it's a strong possibility. A lot of parents like to leave stuff to their kids collectively. And unfortunately, we've heard this when I had an attorney on who talked about estate planning. No matter how responsible or irresponsible a child is, parents like to generally leave both kids something. This includes an asset that they would have to split. So I'm guessing if she actually had some legal viable claim to this property, you would have heard her say that shit in the video. Without a shadow of a doubt, you would have heard her say, hey, no, my mother left me this house in the will, or something to that effect. So the fact that that card wasn't brought up, I think it shows a lot that, and I think that's evidence to support that this house was probably a house that he purchased in his name for his mother, just to hold. Now, squatter, we all know the definition of a squatter, and I'm so grateful I don't ever want to have to deal with a squatter. I know someone who's dealing with one now, and that shit does not sound fun at all. But a squatter is just someone who's staying in the house illegally. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. She's in the house illegally. She has no actual title to the property. Now, I will tell you that things differ from states. Hence the reason why your boy is real cautious about who can stay at his house for any duration, because in a lot of states, if someone stays at your house and they start receiving mail there, you got to go through an entire eviction process to kick them out. I don't give a damn if they only been there for 30 days. So it could get real messy. Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking the same thing. She sounds like she wants something for nothing from me. But the reason why someone's squatting in property is such a big issue is because squatters can establish rights. And as a lot of you know, there's this whole legal concept called adverse possession, where I cannot live in the property, but I can just go squat and occupy that property for a continuous, uninterrupted period of time. And if certain criteria are met, that property legally becomes mine. I legally have a claim to that property. I know, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're in here, Judy. I think in like North Carolina is like 7 years. You can actually squat on government property and occupy it if you can squat on that property and occupy it with certain requirements for a certain period of time. And I think for governments in North Carolina, it was like 20 years or something like that. But presumably, let's think about it. If I got land out of state like I do, if someone occupies that property unbeknownst to me and I'm just oblivious to it, if certain things are met, they could potentially have a legal claim to that land. That's the reason why you never want a squatter on your land. If you got somebody on your land, you need to get them the hell out of there. You need to put all of these signs up and the whole nine. So that's point number one. All right. Point number two, I think that she clearly has the ability to work. I don't think that's up for a discussion. I don't think that's an argument. Um, I think that she clearly has the ability to work. The fact that she was in the home taking care of mom and grandma, that clearly shows that she has the capacity to have some type of employment and do something to actually be productive. That's point number one. Now, the next thing that I noticed from that video is her talking about rehab, her talking about rehab. And this was something that was hard to decipher, because when you got a big balling ass sibling who's a celebrity and an ex NBA player, and you just on the internet arguing over the house, it's really hard to, this person doesn't have a LinkedIn page so you can check out their bio. But whatever the rehab issue is, we don't know if it's a physical matter. We don't know if it's a mental health thing, but whatever the rehab issue is that's going on, it doesn't appear to be something that physically is impairing her ability to work as well. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's the case at all, just from observing this video. I think it's leaning more to me towards the side of somebody wants something for nothing, because she consistently talks about the grief that she's dealing with, and the loss of her mother. And that goes to show, I mean, I think that's just selfish, because she's act like this dude, like y'all both had the same mother. You don't think he dealing with his own grief as all? So I think, one, that's a very selfish of her, and I think that's indicative of what this behavior appears to be. Now, when you're talking about somebody who's squatting in your property, or somebody who occupies your property and get all these rights, I'm sure she's been there for a year or more, according to that video. He's actually probably going to have to go through some type of formal eviction process, where she's served with something from local authorities to actually remove. She has to have a certain amount of time period to vacate the property. You can't just kick somebody out and change the locks. I've actually seen people who rented homes out, and I know people who rented homes out. They have a squatter. Squatter leaves out for work, and they just go move all of this shit outside and change the locks. And you will get a big ass fine. There will be all kinds of court sanction. So he's probably going to have to go through the actual right process to actually have her evicted in the first place. Yeah, it has to be like 7 years to do it uh for like private residential property, and I think it was 20 years for to adversely possess government property. I think a lot of times that stuff will happen. Like, yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to my pops today, and like that's that's one of the things that he fears about the most, because we got this land that's just like in this rural ass area of South Carolina, and if you aren't down there to check on your land, that's when you are at risk for having a squatter come and actually adversely possess your land. So it could be it's not as big of a thing when you have access to the home, you're in close proximity. But if you got land that's in another state, something to that effect, hours away, 5, 6, 7 hour drive away, flights away, that's when you have problems. Hence the reason why y'all always hear me say it always behooves you to have a property manager. Now, the other thing is, and y'all let me know what y'all thought is on that formal eviction. They actually have a show. I think it's on Netflix. I don't know if y'all ever seen it. It's called something like Horrible Roommate, or Terrible Roommate, or Roommates for Hell. But it was this guy who had went to law school, but he never passed the bar. But he knew New York landlord tenant law better than any attorney in the state. And this guy would move in, and he was real slick and selective. He would only move in with women. He would move in with the guy because he would probably get his ass whipped. He would move in with women who were smaller. They were a little bit, probably had a propensity to be timid because he's a tall guy. And he would move in with these women, pay rent for 2 or 3 months, and then not pay rent. And this guy lived free doing this for something crazy like 5 or 6 years. It was literally one woman in that entire video who was able to get him out of the house. And apparently he pulled the same thing with this woman. This sister was, I believe she was from Puerto Rico, if I'm not mistaken. And he tried to like raise up on her and threaten her and get physical with her. And this woman looked at him and was like, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but I'm like a 6-degree black belt and I'll whip your ass. And she left and came back and he was gone with all of his shit. But there are people who do this as a mechanism to save money, to purposely not pay rent. It really gets kind of crazy. And unfortunately, no matter how tight your family is, and again, I hope everybody's family is a lot more congenial and a lot more willing togetherness than people I know and I have in my family. But once someone passes away and this assets at question, all bets are off. Like, I don't care how tight everybody is. Not everybody, but most people act the damn fool. I actually heard come out of someone's mouth when they had a family member who had some type of medical issue. And the first thing that came out of this person's child mouth was, well, if something happened, at least I won't have to pay rent no more. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's how a lot of people think. A lot of people think of a loss of a loved one as an opportunity for a come up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was taking care of both of them. But here's the reason: if you taking care of both of them and you've been there for a year, oh man, that's terrible. Ah, I know you had to go through a process. Did they leave on their own, or did you have to go through an entire legal process to get that taken care of? Yeah, Airbnb. Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how cordial I'll be if I got a squatter thinking they're gonna squat my house. I might have a hood flashback. So like it may be like a eviction hearing and an assault charge all in one legal proceeding. But it's actually quite common. That's why, having that estate plan in place is so important, because I think it clears up all of those discrepancies where you got people who want to fight and do all of the nonsense over shit that's not theirs or something that they think maybe theirs. They kept playing around, not paying rent, trying to make excuses, leaving the house a mess, and not moving out promptly. That's crazy. And that's family. Like, do people even, I don't know. You know, I I tend to look at things, and I tend to look at things as like, my general view is like, do anybody give a damn about what the person who wasn't there would have wanted? They would have wanted your family. They want to take care of your family, but they don't want your family there taking advantage of other family members. That's terrible. That's something that family members did. That's yeah. That's yeah. I don't know. I can't even imagine or relate. And I'll tell you, my general rule, and I had told my parents this because one parent actually got an estate plan done, and the other one, I don't know what they're doing. God bless them, but we'll figure it out. Maybe 30 years from now, knock on wood. But I was like, anything that was left behind, that would have been left behind for myself and for my brother, knowing what you're working with your family members, it was no way. I think the only recourse you have is to sell it and to split it. Like, just sell it, split the proceeds, do it that way, because you can't have I don't know, maybe y'all have siblings or people in your family that you could have had a formal relationship where you jointly own like a property that you all use as a rental property, or you jointly live in one property collectively without driving each other crazy. But I know, my family wasn't built like that. My family, wasn't built like that. So that would have been unproductive. Yeah, that's a. Is that? Unfortunately, I think I. I'm not gonna say it's the norm. I think all families deal with and have some type of trauma. You know what I mean? And I also think that a lot of it, and even in this case that we saw with Jalen Rose and his sister, that shit is probably some resentment there too. Like, like, hey, sibling love and blood is thicker than water and all that aside, but it could be a lot of resentment there when you have one person in the family who is extremely successful, another person who may not be as successful, and they probably think that they're entitled to you taking care of them, you treating them. Let's be honest. There are parents out there who think that way. Like, it. I don't think it's uncommon for parents to think that their children should actually pay the bill or flip the bill for their lifestyle. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about those situations where if something happened, if it's a medical condition or something like that, and you want to take care of your parent, that's what your job is as a child. If something happened, hey, my father had a heart attack. I was like, I had to damn near force him, but I got him to come up here. He stayed with me till he got it back on his feet and everything. That's what children are supposed to do. But I've seen the alternative as well. Like, hey, I raised you. You're now successful. So it's your job to, like, help me take care of the lifestyle that I want because I spent years raising you. And I think that's just, that's crazy as hell, but it's actually a common is actually a common thing that happens when family members think that they're entitled to care from whoever the successful person is. So if you're the successful person in your family, God bless you, because it's a high chance that the craziness is probably going to come your way. Mm. That comment is wow. It's not my fair point. Oh man, that's a cool comment. Oh, yeah, they probably didn't even know what the value of those handbags and certain possessions was as well. You know what I mean? So it could have been it could have been a little bit of it could have been a little bit of both going on there. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, well, it probably was beneficial in the long run that that relationship was over with. But like I said, all y'all people who actually cognizant of y'all finances, like, it's a good chance that if it's a good chance that you're gonna be Jalen Rose if something happened to certain loved ones in your family. Like I would have been Jalen Rose, but for certain unforeseen circumstances, that's just kind of what it is. And then you also got to think about it. Life change, people don't change their beneficiaries. So it's just so much that's just up in the air for discussion. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Split and sell. Hey, if they were cool with giving you those things, that's fine. They were probably but I think it's a fair point. She probably was. They probably were really concerned with the money, the house. You ready for? I'm all ready for. Yeah, because you got to think about it. I had this conversation with my wife, and this is crazy because I mean I'm not a tax guy, but I took the business tax, corporate tax, partnership tax, all the tax courses, and this is why everybody really wants to sell the assets of the property after a loved one passes away because there's a step up value, there's a step up basis to the property. So here's the example. This is why if someone passes away and leaves a house to 10 people, I know I was in this situation and leaves a house to 10 people, 8 out of 10 are going to want to sell it immediately. So let's say my grandmother buys a house for $100,000, however many years ago. She lives in that house, and at the right age of 92, at the right age of 92, she passes away. And that $100,000 house that she bought is worth $400,000. And she left that house to 10 people, which was what happened in this case. So grandmother purchased a house, 100,000. Years later, she passes away. The value of the house is $400,000. She leaves that house to 10 people. The purchase price of that house for the 10 people who just received it is determined at the date of death. So think about it. You see how much profit that is? Just can avoid taxation. Let's think about it. It's crazy. If they would value the house at the time the decedent purchased the house, you would have $300,000 worth of gains that would be taxed amongst those 10 people when they sell it. But the tax code gives you a step up. And so essentially what that means, like I said, at the time that grandma passes away, the value of the house for the people who inherit it is based on the date of death. So if it was $400,000, those 10 people have a $400,000 house. So if 3 months later they sell that house for 400 and let's say they 3 months later they sell that house for $430,000, they're only what's the profit? The profit is only that 30,000 margin. It's not that 400,000. So that's because of that tax concept, and it makes sense. Think about it. You leave your kids a house that you bought for $100,000, and when they 60, or you pass away, and your kids is 62 years old, and they decide to sell it, they shouldn't be taxed on all of the appreciation from the time you purchased it. So the rule actually makes sense. But because of that rule, that's why so many people are in a rush to put the damn house on the market and to sell it because people, hey, they want to get that step up tax basis. 60% of the profits, god damn. Yeah, it's yeah, it's crazy how folks get with property. But the sad thing is we talk about is, I don't know, possessions, possessions and money have more value than relationships. That's just kind of what it is for most people. Because I mean, I don't know. You took care of your mother and your grandmother, and you lived at the house for a year, and you haven't paid any rent or anything. Like, god damn, you had a whole year to stack up, work, not do anything. Like, damn, I wish somebody would say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna take care of everything for you for 1 year. You don't got to do nothing." If you are relatively, if you have if you have any common sense, you would think that, man, because I'm here for this whole year and I'm not doing anything, let me go ahead and get a job so I can stack my money up, just in case the landscape change, just in case someone wants to sell it. But it's one of those things where she clearly places all the blame on him. I mean, think about it. She said, "Oh, I've been here for 3 years, taking care of them. 1 year, I've been here since my mother passed away, and there was no communication." Like, is it his obligation to communicate if it's his place? I think it's your obligation to be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Because I know when he bought the damn house damn sure wasn't in your name, and I'm sure he was smart enough not to put it in his mother name. Because if he put it in his mother name, chances are mom would have said, "You know what? Eh, I think a year is a lot of time to get your funds in order, especially when you have no responsibilities for taking care of your four walls." Like, I don't know. I feel like that's fair game to get. So her trying to embarrass him over social media, the only person who looked embarrassed in those videos for me was her personally. I think he had right. He was walking the realtor through. He was walking the realtor through at that time. That poor little lady. She was so scared to go in that room. But yeah, he was walking the realtor through, I believe, at the time when that video. Well, y- okay, here's an example. Right, this is an example that's a familiar example, right? So it's funny you say that. Hey, people say they're taking care of their parents because of their love, but they want to pay out down the road, right? So, what are your thoughts on this situation, considering you left that comment? Because my view is I'm gonna take care of my parents, and I just at the point where I don't give a fuck what y'all do. If y'all could leave everything to the church or whatever. Pardon my language. I don't like using f bombs on here. I feel like that's too abrasive. I tell my mother I try to stick to curse words that are in the Bible. But so what about this scenario? Okay, and I know because I've seen this happen. This is a familiar example. Grandmother is up in age, has multiple children, and one child takes grandma in, and grandma lives with this daughter. I mean, if she lives with this daughter for, let's say from 70 to 85, everything you take. This daughter's taking her to appointments, doing everything. I mean, her grandkids in the house are growing up with grandma right there. Now, all the other siblings, they come over and visit, but they aren't doing the actual caretaking. And so, daughter does that for 15 years. Grandma passes away and leaves the majority of her assets to the daughter who took care of her. Like, for me in that situation, now I don't know if the daughter took care of them with the intent to get the assets, but when you take care of somebody for 15 years like that, I personally feel like shit, you deserve them, because that's a tough job to do, to take care of a loved one for a long period of time, especially when they're getting older. So I I see both sides of the coin. You know what I mean? I see both sides of the coin. I see the side of the people who take care of their parents, and they're genuinely taking care of their parents. And if their parents pass and leave them the vast majority of the assets, to me, that's understandable. And if that's their wishes, that's their wishes. But I could see how someone would be salty if the grandma would have passed away and left everybody equal, when this child who was taking care of them spent so much of their resources and so much of their time and assets to take care of them. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that's a delicate situation. Um, it's hard. You know what I mean? Like, I tell y'all now, I got a situation now, and I had this talk with my father maybe a couple of weeks ago. My father's 72 and my grandmother is 92. Okay, 92, and Lord bless her heart, she stays in the heart of New York City. She a New York City girl through and through, loud as hell, thinks she know everything, will argue you down. So hey, through and through, right? And so, my grandmother's getting to the point where she's starting to have these lapse in memory. You know what I mean? And so my grandma had a conversation, not with my father, her son, but my grandma had a conversation, and she essentially said that the only place I would feel comfortable staying is with Arthur, my father, her son. And this person relayed that conversation to my father, right? And so my father asked, man, like, I think his point is fair. He was like, I don't think I'm in the position to be taking care of someone who's 90 years old who may have memory lapses. I mean, let's put this into context. He's 72 himself, coming off a couple years of heart surgery, so he can't do as much as he used to. At one point, my great grandmother, his grandmother, he used to watch her, but at that time he was in his 50s, and she would fall out of her chair, he would help her up. And he was talking to me. He was like, "Man, that shit was hard to do when I was in my 50s. If something happened now, man, I'm 72. I wouldn't be able to handle it. You know what I mean?" And I mean, let's be honest, I love my father, but he's not the most patient of people in the world. So I don't think he has the disposition to deal with someone who's having memory lapse issue. You have to be very patient to deal with someone like that on a 24/7 basis. But he's in a really unique position because that's his mother, and he wants to make sure he can take care of her, but he's not in a position to do it, even though she asserts that's what would make her comfortable. And so, that I think the best thing, my advice was to him was, I actually agree with you considering the facts and circumstances that you gave me. That's true. And then sometimes you have the people who taking care who try to use their undue influence to make that person change how they want to dispose of their property. You know what I mean? And so, but what I told my father when he told me that story, I was like, I agree with you. I don't think that you, as a 72-year-old person who, have a weak heart for all intents and purposes, for all, have a weak heart, I don't think you are in a position to take care of a 90-something-year-old woman who's having memory lapse issues or memory issues. So I said, I think the best thing you can do is, one, have a conversation with her, because the reason my grandmother didn't tell him and told somebody else, because she knew that conversation was going to get back to him. I don't think she wants to have that conversation with him. So what I told him was, you should have a conversation with your mother explaining what your position is, because I think your position is an accurate one. And fortunately, and you should help her facilitate the process to make sure she has the resources she need to do what she need to do. And I said, and I'll help you do that. There's plenty of resources available, especially with her as a retiree from her place of employment, where, kind of how my great grandmother was. My great grandmother had someone who would come in and spend the first half of the day with her. And then she had someone who come in and spend the second half of the day with her. But they made sure all of those essentials was taken care of, the groceries and all of those type of things. So I kind of think that is probably the best outcome. But I mean, that's tough. It takes I'm not going to, hey, I give his sister credit, because to take care of a parent, mom, and a grandparent simultaneously, that's a big ass job in and of itself. And I completely see, if I had a brother who was doing that, if you're taking care of both mom and grandma, you don't have to pay for nothing. You don't have to do anything. I understand why that arrangement was in place, because you are doing more than enough. You're doing a job of, trust me, I used to work in healthcare prosecution. So I prosecuted a lot of home health aides, one-to-ones, who wasn't providing adequate service. That is a hard ass job. And for one person to handle two people, that's a really big deal. You know what I mean? So, that's, yeah, I agree, because people are gonna come to blows and lose their minds and never speak on it. Hey, estate planning is important, no matter how much or little items that you may or may not have. I agree. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm telling you right now, like, I just had this conversation. Like, I don't know. I feel like my job as a person on this planet is to do two things. I shouldn't be a burden on two groups of people. I shouldn't be a burden. I shouldn't be a burden on my children in any regard. So when I'm 40 or 50 and my kids going off in their career, I is my intent to I don't want to be a burden. If my kids have employment, they're not breaking the law, they're not hurting nobody, and they can take care of themselves, I'm good. You won't have to worry about me asking you for anything because I just want you to take care of yourself. So I feel like a person's role is not to be a burden on their children and not to be a burden on their parents. I don't want to be a burden on my mom right now. I'm not asking my mother for shit. She retired. Like I would feel like a goofy if I do that. Now I know circumstances happen where people have to do it, and that's what family's for. But there's a difference between a one-off instance and someone who's taking advantage of their parents. That's just two separate things. But you shouldn't also be a burden on their kids. Like, what is that movie called? Where um, I can't think of the name of the movie. It was an interesting, yeah, home care. But I know, like, that you get more from somehow. Yeah, that's true. But a lot also the other thing too is a lot of people when they had those estates, it was funny because Attorney Steps who was on, they was like, and depending on how you leave those but depending on how you have the estate plan, you can accidentally leave someone something with the intention of thinking you're helping them, but that income you leave them disqualifies them from like Medicaid or some type of benefits program. So it's a real thin line that people have to walk to make sure that you have an estate plan in place to do what you want it to do. You know what I mean? Like think about it. If my father needed care and I got my estate plan set up, if something happens to me, leave my father $200,000. All my father live off his retirement and his Medicaid and all of that good stuff. If I pass away and my pops get $200,000, he gonna get the boot from the Medicaid program. It could potentially kick him out of that program. And now he has $200,000. But what if his care was $10,000 a month, or $15,000 a month, or $20,000 a month? So it's a real art to setting up your estate to help people and not hurt them, especially when you're talking about the elderly. But like for me, now my folks got to be close. Yeah, yeah, yep. Mm. That's crazy. I know, but or you see a lot of people. The other thing that you see a lot of people doing is the reverse mortgages. And I actually thought a reverse mortgage was bad until an old person got on me in the comments of a video that I commented on about reverse mortgage. That old dude let me have it, but he made a fair point. He was like, like my only recourse may be to pull equity out of my house right now at this age and not worry about it until I pass away and just let the next generation deal with it. So it's crazy. I'll be honest. It's something I don't want to think about, but I think about all the time. You know what I mean? I think about it all the time, and I'm not too concerned with my. I'll tell you, I'm not too concerned with my mother if my mother ever needs care because I could drive to my mother's house in 15 or 20 minutes. That's cool. So she's in close proximity. If she had to stay here with me, or if I had to pay out of my pocket to have people there with her to take care of her, that's fine. The problem and my fear for me is my father. Because one, hey, old grouchy people like him, he gonna live to be like 120. Old grouchy people live forever. So one, he kind of a grouch. I love him, but he kind of a grouch. And two, he not gonna want to leave. He not gonna want to leave the country to come up here, anything like that. So like I already know that situation would be the situation that's kind of problematic, and we actually dealing with it in some regard now because my wife's mother is has been in a assisted living facility for some time, and we try to get her to come out of here. She's scared to get on planes. She wouldn't do it, but that's yeah, it's annoying to talk about. I don't even like talking about that shit, but it's something that you have to talk about and something that you have to filter through because nobody gonna live forever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like in those situations, you know, like those situations, you definitely would probably need some type of trust to say, okay, all of this money is not going to you, so you won't get kicked out of the program, but it's going to be put in this trust, and you'll get $2,000 a month to supplement. That person will get allotted a certain amount of money that's just under the threshold to exclude them from the benefits program. That's one of the savvy, unique ways that you're gonna have to do it. But unfortunately, I hate to tell y'all this, but everybody in this chat right now, y'all probably the Jalen, y'all probably the Jalen Rose of y'all family. So y'all, if you haven't gone through it, you're probably gonna go through it. Be prepared when you go through it. Everything is probably gonna be a battle and gonna be contentious. So it may not be contentious, but if you're watching this video, you're definitely probably the Jalen Rose of your family. Right. Yeah. I don't know. This may sound crazy. Is this selfish of me? My goal is to die and spend all of my money. Like, think about it. If you got a life insurance policy, say you and your spouse have a life insurance policy for $1 million, just as an example. Let's say y'all six-figure earners and you and your spouse got $1 million life insurance policies. And throughout your years, you and your spouse have worked hard and you all have become millionaires and y'all retire at the age of 60, 65, whatever. When y'all retire, y'all sitting on $3 million in y'all retirement account. Like, I'm not saying I'm gonna blow it all, but I feel like a big obligation for me is to actually use that money and enjoy the shit out of it in my retirement years. Like, damn, like, I mean, I don't know, like, god damn, how much do I gotta leave somebody, right? Like, if you leave somebody a life insurance policy of a couple of $1 million. Oh, come on. And that life insurance policy avoids all that taxation. Man, I don't know. Like, I, I, I feel like, like I think leaving with zero, I'll actually go back to that comment. I think that's a I think that's a fair point. Like I want to the shit I work hard for. I want to spend it and enjoy it, and me and my wife enjoy our years and all the stuff that we wanted to do that we didn't do. We gonna do that shit. Like I already know now for my 50th birthday, I'm going skydiving. That's some time away, but my wife already is like, hell no, I'm not doing that. But I do got an interesting finance story to tell y'all outside of this. So I think we're gonna leave this Jalen Rose story here. Everybody watching this, you are the Jalen Rose of your family. You are probably the successful one, the rational one, the level-headed one. So if there is a loss and assets are at line and craziness starts to happen, even though you may not want it, it's probably going to be your responsibility to act as the rational person in the process because people are going to lose their minds around you. So you're going to have to make the best of that situation. But this is a funny story. This is a funny story about credit cards and how smart they are. Yep, I got it. I agree 100%. Yep, I agree with that 100%. So this is an interesting story. This is an interesting story about credit cards and credit card debt, right? Now, I'm gonna tell this story. I will leave the name as a generic family member. Okay, we won't even go into the details of the family member, right? But I had a family member who had a credit card. I'm gonna probably clip this and use this video as a short because it was hilarious. I had a family member who had a credit card, and they had this credit card for I'm talking about decades. Like they've been with this financial institution 10, 20, probably over 25 years, right? And they automatically had it set up to where every time the bill comes, the entire balance of the bill was taken out of their account and paid off. So they never paid any interest. And so I was like, damn, that's smart. That's how I do it. Good way to capitalize on points. Well, this said family member, and hey, I don't understand why people like it's weird because like If you don't come to me for advice and you do something stupid, that's great. I don't, that's your decision. It is what it is. But if you come to me for advice, I give you the advice and you don't take it, and then stupid happens. I feel like that's a teachable moment, and I don't care who you, I don't care who you are. And so, essentially, what happened was, oh, let me see this real quick. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna check that out. Zero getting all you can. I'm gonna check that out. I never even heard of that book. So this person had a credit card for 20, 30 years, same institution. They pay their bill off every month. Now, this person is, let's say, now on a fixed income, right? This person's on a fixed income. And so this person got an extra vehicle, right? Now, this isn't the primary vehicle that this person needs to get around from A to B. This person has a vehicle. This person actually has multiple vehicles that's sitting in their yard that are paid for, right? Right? Multiple vehicles that's sitting in their yard that's paid for. But this person wanted to get a vehicle for leisure purposes, for entertainment purposes, motorcycle, boat, one of those type of things you just get for fun, right? Now, there was some repairs that needed to be done because it wasn't brand new. And so this person called me and said, you know what? I'm not going to have them pay my bill off every month. I'm going to only have them take out whatever, like $500 every month. And so my immediate comment was the same comment that a lot of you all probably had. You probably like, why would you have them just take out five? Just keep having them doing the same thing. But this person was adamant. Was like, nah, I changed it. So I adjusted it. I'm only paying $500 a month because I know I'm making some repairs and I'm not going to spend over $500. And I was like, okay, that's how they finesse people, right? And so, after that conversation, this individual, made the change. Instead of paying off their bill every month, they just had them pay. They've been paying off their bill every month for probably 20 years. They just had them take out $500 a month towards their bill. Then, about 2 weeks after that happened, this individual called me and said, when I changed my payment on my credit card from paying off the balance to only paying $500 a month, they increased my credit limit. They increased my credit limit, and I didn't even ask them to do it. They increased my credit limit. And I said, uh-oh. I said, I already see this coming. I was like, I already see what's coming. They about to finesse you. They looking at you. Okay, I'm gonna check that book out. That's smart. It allows you to you leaving people in a good position to win, but you using what you accumulated to enjoy your life for you and your loved ones. I think that's how life is supposed to be lived. And so he changes it to $500 a month instead of paying off the balance. Immediately when they make this change, what happens? They make this change, and the credit card company increased their credit card balance without even being solicited to do so. And so that was month one, lowered the payment, not paying it off every month to $500 a month. Month two, credit card company unilaterally increases the credit card balance. What happened month three? Month three, I get a call like, man, I don't know how I got this such and such $1,000 credit card bill. The credit card company saw this behavior coming from a mile away. I thought that was just crazy. I thought it was beautiful from the credit card company. Like, credit card companies track your spending habits. They know exactly what you're doing. So if I start going to Lowe's and with my credit card, I buy cement, then I buy some 2x4s, then I buy some latches and some bolts. They're gonna be like, this brother's building something. Maybe he's building a fence or a garage or something. He purchased a post hole digger, or he rented a post hole digger from Lowe's. They're gonna know that I got something going on, so I'm probably gonna be spending money in the interim for the next, whatever month and a half. But the credit card company finessed this person perfectly to where they never carried a balance. They made one adjustment on what they were paying every month. They got their credit limit increased, and then lo and behold, 3 months later, they looked at their credit card bill. Was like, how the hell do I got thousands of dollars that I owe. But I mean, like, it's such good gamesmanship. Like, I got to give credit to the credit card company. Those SOBs know how to finesse you and they know how to make a profit off you. But yeah, that I just wanted to tell that story because I thought that that was an interesting story. And I also made a purchase, and I need you all to let me know if I got if it's a waste of money or not. Right? I thought it was a good deal. This is the last story I'm gonna leave y'all with before we shut this off, and y'all let me know if it's a good deal. Right? I'm a movie guy, right? And I got a nice TV, and I mean, my TV is probably old, all things considered, because I'm blind. So a picture is only going to look so clear to me. And people are like, oh, this curved TV has such a beautiful picture. All that shit look the same to me because I could barely see anyway. And so, but I got a nice big TV, old TV, but a nice big flat screen TV, and little speakers and everything. But I'm a movie guy. I like being in the movies. There's something about the movies that changes the experience when you're watching something. And so there's this very nice theater that I go to. It's one of those theaters where you sit there and they got a waiter that comes out and they'll bring you Mai Tais and margaritas and real food you can order. And, it's just a button on the table in front of your reclining seat and everything. So in this really nice theater, it costs about $17 to go to a movie. So if, me and the wife want to go to the movie, $17 plus tax per ticket, something like that. So you talk about 37 to $40 you're going to spend. Well, they have an unlimited movie pass that an individual could buy, and it's $29.99. Okay. So I got two. And the second one is only $25. So for $55 a month, I get two passes that anybody can use. It don't have to be me. It could be me and my son, me and my daughter, me and my wife. But for $55 a month, I get to see unlimited movies, one movie per day. So that's not just talk about old ass movies, because it's one of them throwback theaters where they show, like, for Halloween, they're showing like the original Candyman, the original Freddy Krueger, but nah, they got all the new stuff too. So for $55 a month, you can go to as many movies as you want, but you can only see one a day. It could be the new Black Panther movie, the Emmett Till movie, something current. I thought that was a deal because I did the math in my head. If I go to the movies twice, if I use it twice a month, just twice a month, it would pay for itself. Now, I do understand what they're hoping and how they're looking to make their money. The money isn't from the sale of this monthly package. They're looking to make their money from, okay, once you come to the movie, you're going to order food here, you're going to order drinks here, and all this other overpriced stuff. But my thought and my point of view is, now, if me and my wife go to the movie, it's like a little date thing. Yeah, we probably gonna order some food, and she gonna get a drink. I don't gonna get no drink, but she gonna get a drink, and it is what it is. But if I'm going with like myself or me and my kids, like, no, we can eat before we get there. I've actually done that where I've eaten before I went to the movies because I don't want to buy anything. I just want to watch the damn movie. So I thought that was a very smart purchase on my behalf. And so I already got tickets I got the pass yesterday, and I already got tickets to see the new Black Adam DC movie Saturday. So, hey, I want to see that movie. I know I'm going to see the new Black Panther. I can think of 5 movies that I want to see already. But because I have this, I'm going to go see every movie. If they come out with 5 Green Tomatoes too, I'm going to go see that shit because I could go see it and it's paid for and it's included. But I thought that was a good deal. Let me know if I've been gamed in that or if that's a good deal. I feel like it's a good deal if you use it and if you aren't partaking in the overpriced meals that they serve. And the food is actually good. But I think as long as I don't partake in the overpriced meals every time I go, it'll actually be a benefit. That's kind of my thought process. So I'll let y'all know in about 30 days if this thing was a colossal failure and if I need to cancel that if I need to cancel that membership. But I think it was a good idea. So, it is what it is. Hey, I appreciate everybody for tuning into this video, checking this out. All y'all Jalen Roses out there who watching this video, the fiscally responsible adults in y'all family. God bless y'all. I hope when the storm comes, or if it comes, y'all are adequately prepared to handle it. Y'all take care. Have a good one. Got a comment I gotta look at real quick. Before I go, I saw a comment pop up. Yeah, see, I think it's a great thing. Like, I'm like, oh man, like my wife and daughter got to go out of town this weekend, so I told my son, hey, we're gonna go see the Black Adam movie on Friday, and then Saturday we're gonna go see Smile. Now, maybe one of those days we might, get a popcorn or soda for him or something like that. But for me, like, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not above sneaking something in the movie theaters, but that's a whole nother story. Y'all have a good one. Hey, take care. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all be blessed. Peace.